Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the special edition International.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
So,
hear us?
as you see, I'm wearing my Australian hat. I've got a hitchhiker here on my shirt. It's a kangaroo from Australia. And Sydney and Dave are in the training studio. I have broken into Bob's office. I'm taking over. And Bob is out back in the training center with Rennie Doyle and a bunch of our special guests. So welcome, everybody. This is a one-time engagement for me back as producer, and I'm about to get out of here. So, Sydney, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for hanging in there with us. We intended on going live right at 9 o'clock. And of course, all of the tests that we did to make sure that this would work out seemingly all fell apart this morning. So thank you for hanging out, waiting for us. We are excited to be here. So special edition of Bead Maker and Coffee. We are all in Hayward at P&S HQ today, and we have our international distributors here. We have an event that we're going to hold 2 a year. The first one was in Big Bear in, what was that, May? And so this is our second one, and it is here in Hayward, and we have our international partners here today. So, Rennie, would you like to introduce who we have here and where they're from?
We've even got Sydney a whole bunch of the background too.
Yeah.
So there's a whole group over here. Matter of fact, we've got the riot fencing up because they're trying to get in here and all that stuff. So start here and just introduce yourselves if you would.
Sure. My name is Amir Carey. I am from Trinidad. My team is here to collaborate with the P&S team. We have Akib and Anand here from Trinidad as well. As you can see, A&P distribution, that's our business. We supply a lot of the top brands in the market, professional brands, P&S being one of them. Yeah.
Like
a lot of
And my name's Mark Birch. I'm from Australia. Our business is Car Care Co. We supply P&S as well as a number of other brands around Australia. We have a dealer network, so we have many dealers selling our products and our brands all over Australia, as I said. I'm here with my team as well. We've got Christine and Katrina in the background over there. And yeah, it's great to be here.
And we've learned since you guys have been here, and we had a van ride yesterday, not to mess with kangaroos.
yes.
If you can find them.
We established that. So next, Catherine.
Hi, my name is Catherine Mayo. I'm from Puerto Rico for represent Distributor. I represent the best brands for the market for industry for detailing for P&S distributors in Puerto Rico.
There we go.
Very cool. And so we had a full day yesterday, absolutely full day. So as we saw in the opening, why don't you guys tell us what we did yesterday, what that video was all about? Who wants to share their experiences?
I could.
We actually batch of chemicals. Actually, a batch of paint gloss.
Almost 1,000 gallons.
Yeah.
Almost 1,000 gallons. So what'd you guys make?
paint gloss.
Paint gloss. So pretty, I think these guys are being a little shy. And so I think the thing that amazed me most, all the chemistry that Dave puts into it, right, it's amazing. But to see the color change that fast with such little amount of dye blew me away.
Yeah.
Right? Dave, how much dye was in that for that batch of almost 1,000 gallons?
I think we added them up. We ended up having just about 100 grams of dye. Yeah. So it's a pretty small amount. Yeah, a little, 100 grams is about like that much of your coffee cup. So it's not much. I thought it was really fun because we were able to have them do the whole experience of putting a product together. We measured out some of the ingredients and kind of put some secret ingredients in the tank to start with, but then we were able to add the remainder of the items, the fragrance. That's really always fun. A lot of the wetting agents, some of the stabilizers, UV stabilizers, UV inhibitors. We added all those. We were able to then at the very end, which is kind of funny, or I think is kind of fun, and it's fun for everybody, is that then you kind of miraculously, you get all these things in and you end up with this swirl of like kind of white material in this case, and you add the dye and then it's mysteriously paint gloss. Mm-hmm. And it's like, there it is. It magically appears before your eyes, even though you already added up all those items. So it was pretty fun. We've only done that one other time.
Mm-hmm. What I thought was cool was, as kids, we always learned that blue and red make purple.
Right.
And I thought it was cool that if you watch the video again, if you go back and watch, you can see the blue and you can see the red, and then all of a sudden it's just the perfect purple. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I long ago figured out that we didn't need to have a different dye for each color, that we could pretty much build our own colors. And initially, when I first started putting products together, we sold pinstriping for a company called Universal Products. Before that was Arlon. But anyway, I used to pull out the striping chart and start grabbing what I thought were really cool colors off the striping chart. And that's how we came up with a lot of our colors. So some of them, those colors change over the years, so they might be a little trendy. Some of them, from the 90s. You might recognize some of the popular colors from those periods of times, because, as you know, car colors change, and so the stripes you put on them change over those years. So it was kind of fun to come up with colors that way.
Yeah. So that was really fun. And then we got to bottle it, package it, see how the boxes go through and get taped and stuff. So that was really cool. What did you guys think about that?
I definitely felt like I was back at home, because that's what we do at the warehouse. We kind of fill all the gaps. We're at the storefront, we're at the warehouse. So it's pretty normal for me.
Yeah, we actually feel a bit. We decided we need some of your packing machines.
Yeah.
because we're packing boxes by hand all the time, and the automation in the packing area, in packing the boxes, for example, was next level for us. So we were a bit jealous by the time we saw the whole process.
Yeah,
very cool.
It's pretty neat. The automation really helps a lot. Sometimes I'm amazed, because we're in the wine area and that sort of stuff. And I've actually talked to, people in the wine industry, and they're labeling their bottles by hand. And you're like, how many? And they go, 100,000. Like, oh, wow. You could really benefit from just a little labeling machine.
Yeah. So yesterday we started out with that, and then we kind of went into several business topics with our distributors. Rennie did his hour-a-day marketing. We did some social media work. We did factory tour, all that kind of good stuff. And then we went and did some San Francisco sightseeing stuff last night. And today is the day for all hands on with the products and things like that. But we obviously love to give everyone access to Dave. Everyone loves to hear from the chemist. And so we thought it would be fun to do this live so that everybody could kind of be interactive. So that, everybody that's watching can kind of hear from a distributor standpoint, kind of the questions that they have. And, I thought it would be fun to have everybody kind of have a look inside of our event and hear the questions that are out there for Dave. So we brought on these guys. They're going to ask the questions for their team. And for those of you in the comments, absolutely feel free to send in questions. We have Mr. Keith as our producer today that can bring up the questions for us. So feel free to interact, ask questions, stop us whenever you need. So let's go ahead and kick that off. So Rennie, do you have your first person that's willing to speak?
What are you going to say?
I'll speak. They've got a two-part question for you. Iron Buster is gaining increasing popularity in Australia. It's always been reasonably popular. We just can't seem to keep up with stock levels. But my two-part question is, what is the difference between Iron Buster and Crystal Wash, besides the colour change? And in terms of the colour change, is that a colour indicator, or is that actually part of the chemical process of the product reacting with the iron?
Right. So both materials, both Crystal Wash and Iron Buster will react and chelate iron, and they pull it out of the system, and they react with iron, both of them. Different chelates work differently in different ways. Certain chelates have an ability to pull out a lot of calcium. Some do magnesium. Some do iron. They're all positively charged ions that the chelates work with. In the case of Crystal Wash, we use actually a combination of a couple acids that act as chelates. The cool thing about Crystal Wash that I like is that you have a combination of the activity of the acid in the product, which is you end up kind of displacing some of the material on the surface. Then the anionic side, or the anionic side, acts as a chelate and grabs hold of those positively charged ions and kind of removes them. Now, it works well with a lot of surface contamination. So for, calcium, magnesium, things that fall out of the sky, but its best attribute probably isn't iron. It does do iron, but it's not its best attribute. The best attribute is when you're using Iron Buster, is it's specifically designed to work with iron. And so, if you want to, if you got, you want to just pull specifically iron out of the system, plus with some surfactancy and cleaning ability, then Iron Buster is a great way to go for that. There is no indicator dye. The actual active ingredient, ammonium thioglycolate, is the material that is the part that reacts with iron, and it also turns purple with iron in an oxidation reduction reaction. So it turns purple. It's not an indicator. It's the actual process. And so that indicates actually that it's working. You can see physically that it's grabbing hold of iron.
Thanks, Dave.
Next. Any questions?
Yeah. After Dave, with the process for experience for preparing the paint gloss, I viewed the label. Dave explained what is the batch code.
What is the batch code?
Right. What is the batch code?
Yeah.
So where do you find that on the label? So we have a couple options. The batch code can be found on the bottle and on the box. And what we do is when we make a batch, each batch has its own batch code, which makes perfect sense. And then what we do is we make sure that the bottle and the box get the same label. So the bottle gets labeled at the beginning. You can see at the beginning of the video where we put a blank bottle on the labeler. It goes through, it gets a label. Right after it gets a label, it goes through this cool little digital printer that puts a little batch code right on the bottom, right as the bottle goes by. The technology for it, I just think is amazing. It's kind of like an old TV tube. Then the bottle goes all the way through. It gets filled, it gets capped, it gets sealed, and it gets put in a box. We put it in a box. The box goes through the machine, the taper, and at that time we have another printer that has printed a label on a plate. And the plate just slides out and puts the label on, and then you get a batch code on both the bottle and the box.
So, Dave, why is the batch code important? What does it mean to us?
There are a couple of reasons. It allows us to track back through the entire process. So every batch sheet is tracked and maintained. So we are able to keep track of all the raw materials that go into that batch. Anything that ever happens in the future with that, what we need to know, if people ever have a problem with the product, is the first thing we need to do is we need to go back and see that batch code. That batch code tells us when the product was made, what batch it was made in, what things came before it, what things came after it, all the raw materials that went into it. And we can go track back and see if there is something that looked like it was a systemic problem with the batch or just an individual problem with how a certain gallon or a case of product was handled. And so we can come back and double check. We can check retained samples. We can do all sorts of things once we have that batch code. If people just hold up a gallon and go, this is bad, unfortunately, there's not much we can say because we have no idea really anything about that gallon at that point.
Cool.
Thanks for this response.
It's awesome. You're up.
So as we know, we have a lot of different brands on the market, right? My question surrounds being user-friendly. One of the products that we actually started bringing was Defender. So ceramic coated maintenance is pretty popular now back home. And we've been using Defender and we've been coming up with this problem where it's hazy after use in different temperatures, different types of coatings as well. Any advice, any headway on that?
So, we do find that certain products, in different environments react differently than we experience ever, right? We just don't experience that. We had an issue with Ultracoat polish like 30 years ago where it just wouldn't work in Florida. And it was actually, now that you mentioned that, it was doing almost the exact same thing. He would have to go back, and what it seemed to be doing was it wasn't. It would start to get a little cloudiness to the top of the surface, and then you'd wipe it with a microfiber. Actually, there were no microfiber towels back then. A damp diaper or something like that to try and pull that off. And then about 6 hours later, it would come back. And what it was is basically humidity in the air, basically redepositing on the surface, and you just kind of kept wiping and wiping it. What it's doing is it's just creating a surface that is conducive to that sort of application or that sort of problem. Sometimes we see an issue with salt in the air. Sometimes we see an issue just with humidity. I haven't seen it, but being that I kind of have that track record and that history, I'm going to assume that's where I would start looking to see what's up with that.
So Dave, one of the things we found out is that I think what you're speaking of is that if you take your breath on a window and it leaves that, you've got that moisture. It's the moisture from your breath, right? The one thing that we found out with Defender is because when we have a storm come in, or we're having the same issue. One of the things we do is take clean air and make the surface that we're applying it to as dry as possible before application. Get as much of the moisture off the car in a humid environment or in a wet environment. That's going to be important, and we saw that reduced.
Okay.
And so just taking an air dryer across it is, and I'm not talking a hair dryer or something like that, a decent amount of volume of air, not pressure, but volume of air across the surface really seemed to help that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say that's what I find too. It's not real humid in Idaho where I am, but definitely if my garage gets humid, because I do all of my washing and everything in the garage. So I noticed that like maybe in August this year when it was real hot, my garage would get a little bit humid. And so I noticed it a lot on the glass. I would do the keep where I had to keep wiping it. And then why did the fog come back? But as soon as I got that car outside of the humid environment, it dried right away and it was no issue. I didn't have any streaking or anything like that. So definitely I like the air movement across the surface should take care of that. Sure.
You can see that this would be more difficult in an area where there is no dry spot.
Yeah.
It's humid everywhere. It's at the beach, humid everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of the things too, I think is if you do live in a really humid environment, whether it's putting on Defender or another coating of any type, dehumidifiers work really well. When you're inside the building, if you're doing it inside, is using a dehumidifier during application, letting the vehicle sit there for a bit and kind of let the product settle on, that will help tremendously.
Yeah.
We worked in different environments across Asia, and that seemed to help greatly.
But
So, but a caution there, do not blow a fan directly onto the surface of the car. Spray the product on. I had a customer call me and go, "Oh yeah, the product just doesn't work after that." Well, it's because it's evaporating the product right off the car immediately. So there's a little balance there, but I did have that happen this summer. And then they realized, we've got the fan running directly on the paint surface that was causing
for sure
to adhere. So,
all right, let's take a viewer question real quick. We have Sheldon up here with which tire dressing in the lineup would attract the least amount of dust?
So I think we should do a two-part answer there. So, in my opinion, in the chemically speaking, it would be natural finish or dynamic diluted down. The tip. There's another part of that. In that, if you've got a lot of silicone, like glossy silicone on the surface, it's just going to adhere to that silicone, and you're just going to get this kind of like brown layer on there. So the other thing is, even if you are using a higher gloss silicone, my experience is that you can put the higher gloss silicone on there, let it get really glossy, and then go back over it with the microfiber towel, and you can actually take down the gloss. But strangely enough, when you started with that really glossy surface, you end up with a really nice dark finish that might be harder to attain if you just started with a kind of a more matte finished product.
Yep, absolutely. That's what I feel too. Like if I use Dressed or something like that kind of leaves a tackier finish, it's so easy to just knock it down, and then there's not a lot for the dust to stick to. All right, real quick from Jamie the Cleaner, mixing paint gloss and taking names. Yes, absolutely. I like the spooky font. That's
Yeah,
really
spooky
fun.
font. And then in addition, everybody has collected their own signed gallon of paint gloss, right?
Yes.
For the process. So that
Yes.
was pretty cool.
So on the table there, they have a gallon of paint gloss. Is that one of them with the signatures?
Yeah.
We had the distributor sign the gallons, and we did have the question come up on social media last night. How do they get one of the gallons? And honestly, it is like luck of the draw. So when we have people here and we have them sign gallons and sign boxes and things like that, it gets just entered into rotation. So it is, I mean, if you get one, you're just super lucky. So it just goes into rotation, and as orders go out, and if that gallon gets pulled, then, you know, it's kind of
an idea.
like an Easter egg.
I've got a great idea.
What's
you know,
that?
we're doing a little charity for SEMA Cares next week at SEMA.
Yeah.
Maybe what we'll do is take one or two of these down
Nice.
and auction them off
Yeah.
and support a good cause.
That's a good idea.
All these great people's signature on it.
There you go.
Fun.
Yeah.
So
Great
I'll
idea.
bid on it right now. I just want it because it's got all their signatures on it. So
Right. Well, not only that, but they made it themselves too, right? So that's really cool.
bid war coming up because Mark's giving me evil eye, but buddy, this is mine. What a great cause.
I love that. It's a great idea.
I've got a question for you, and I don't get to do this too often.
Go for it.
You've had this remarkable career of developing probably, you know, one of the best developers of detailing products in the industry's history. If you had to put your name on one product that you're most proud of, what would that product be?
You know, it's hard to decide. It really is, because you know, each product ends up being kind of the next level. So, you know, I learned things along the whole way, and then that product is like, wow, I'm, you know, really proud of that product. And then I have to go back and do a whole new, a lot of times completely different direction on a product. And then I go, wow, I learned a lot from that product. I think, to me, you know, sometimes it's the product that I work the hardest on. You know, that's the one I want to look at, and then I got to look at it a different way. Well, like, what about the product that kind of made the biggest impact, you know, that we had? And so, you know, Bead Maker was one of those products where, you know, we put it together. It sat on the shelf. We realized it was an incredible opportunity, but we didn't recognize it right away. And then when it kind of finally started getting out in the market, you know, it was a long process. But I just have to say, I look at, I'm sorry, it's going to get to be a long answer. I look at the industry in general and people that have made big impacts through products. And it's the ones that I think that really kind of seem to make a difference in the industry that I think are the ones that our people should be the most proud of. And so I think Bead Maker's done the most from our perspective at this point.
That's what I suspected you to say. I mean, I think it's made a huge impact, not just, you know, within our company and our ranks, but I think it really and steered the whole, you know, we told Auto Geek, we really felt that this was going to start a new category, and for all intents and purposes, it did. So congratulations on that. Thank you on that.
Thank you for your compliment, by the way. I you know, from my perspective, I feel, you know, humbled. There's a lot of good people in the industry doing a lot of amazing things.
There are, but you're just one of the standouts out of it. You've been doing it a long time, and it's great to see you get the recognition that it's so well deserved. And so, Sydney, you want me to go out into the audience a little bit? You want to bring them in and see if you've got any?
Yeah, do we want to switch out so some of our other distributors can ask questions? Do we want to switch out or no?
We could do that. You guys want to just switch chairs real quick and bring them in? So
I can see in the comments coming up, Fernando's looking for Liz. She's here, Fernando. Okay, so let's answer this quick. We'll have Dave answer this question real quick for Briley. So here's a question. With a product like paint gloss, how do you decide how much water to add? Would it be possible to just go ultra concentrated and save on shipping? So maybe why don't manufacturers do ultra concentrates?
Right. At a certain concentration, a lot of the materials they lose their compatibility. We could make paint gloss more concentrated than it is, but not at an ultra concentrate where you could take, you know, a pint and make a gallon out of it. So at that point, what happens is the raw materials and the products start affecting each other. And they, so eventually they wouldn't have the shelf life, and they wouldn't have the need, or they wouldn't have the shelf life that they need to get out to the customer, maybe last a year or two in a bottle, or, we couldn't have the confidence it was going to do that. And then they could dilute it out and make the product. So every product has its own situation and its own issues. But paint gloss, that is the main problem, is that if we make it in ultra concentrate, it actually starts to degrade some of the active ingredients. I think that's basically it.
Yeah, I can see where that would be a problem with people putting in their own water, their own amounts, and then they would say, well, this doesn't work, or this, hurt this material. And, you just don't have enough control over the actual product at that point.
That is another issue. And you do run into that with things, and we would run into that things like that with glass cleaner, as we showed everybody yesterday in the production process. We have an entire water treatment system. So every gallon gets perfect water. Every product gets perfect water. And that would be a huge problem in something like paint gloss, where you dilute it out and now you've added, hard water situation. And we find that in glass cleaners, dilutable glass cleaners. That's one of the problems, is that people aren't using high enough quality water.
Right. Totally. Absolutely. All right, Rennie, you've got a new crew
up here. So we brought it out. So we'll go start right here, young lady, and we'll work our way down. Introduce yourself, please.
Okay, so I'm Lizeth Esquivel. I'm from Pulex, Mexico. I'm glad to be here.
It's awesome.
I'm Aki Valley, and I'm from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean.
Christine, Kakeko, Australia.
We're all sitting here. We got all different accents. They're telling me I have an accent, but we're from all over the globe. So questions, who's gonna, we're ladies first. So we'll start right here. Do you have a question for Dave?
Yeah, so Dave, about the ceramic coatings, speaking about inspiration and layer, is enough one layer of coating plus Defender as a top coat is enough to ensure the durability of the ceramic?
Yes, absolutely. And we've had some great testing done on that. And Defender does a really good job of enhancing the durability of just about any coating. It just, there are, we've gone through this process of there's, cracks and fissures and stuff. And people have asked, like, well, how does it stick on there? There's a lot of, ceramic coatings are crystalline, right? And so you're going to have at a submicroscopic level, actually, these cracks and fissures and crystalline sort of structure that aren't perfectly smooth. What Defender does for you is it fills in those cracks and puts a layer on top of the coating, giving it another, and it actually binds with the coating, which is really cool, both on a physical and a chemical level. And it gives you another layer, like a little sacrificial layer over the top of the coating, adding properties that are really positive to the coating.
Okay, thank you. I have another question. So right now in Mexico, the graphene is a boom. Everybody's talking about graphene. Are you planning to release something with graphene?
We keep our eye on the graphene market and what's going on. And it's probably I'm just going to say in my own, not seeing enough of the materials that are out there, and they are progressing rather rapidly right now. The last time I really took a serious look at graphene was probably 9 months ago. Okay. And at that time, I did not see what I thought were performance improvements that were at the level that we wanted to see. So within coatings, I think graphene's a really cool idea. I think a lot of the things that go on in the industry with graphene, everything, you'll have to demonstrate the mechanism to me that indicates that the graphene is actually doing something. In a coating, there's a lot of opportunity for binding and cross-linking and things that would be really cool to use with graphene. In some of the other products that aren't permanent on the surface or transitory on the surface, I don't see that being a big advantage. So I think for me right now, the graphene thing is just still a wait and see. And if I find something that I really think is good, then we'll join the fray.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
There you go. Next up.
All right. So this question was actually posted to me just before we came to P&S. So one of our detailers back home, he wants to know like what's the major differences between Dream Maker and Paint Gloss.
Oh, well, all of the chemicals in it. Yeah, no, they're not very similar at all. I kind of run into this question pretty regularly because there's a chemical question: is are they different? And yes, they're absolutely 100% different. And then there's a functional difference because in the end, Paint Gloss, Dream Maker, Bead Maker, and Defender are all varying levels of durability on kind of an instant detailer, right?
Mhm.
So in a functional level, they're kind of not the same thing, but they fill the same niche. So none of the chemicals between Paint Gloss and Dream Maker are the same. Dream Maker adds a lot more to the surface. We've always considered Paint Gloss kind of like end dust for cars.
Mhm.
And it's a really nice smudge remover, very easy to use in every situation. But the result is not really, it's a clean, glossy surface, but not a huge improvement in the visual aspects of the car. But it's clean and it's easy to use. Dream Maker, on the other hand, may not be quite as easy to use in all the applications, but it results in a much more appealing surface.
And
Yes.
second part to that question, of course, these guys, they like to mix all these chemicals together. So one of the questions he was asking is, can it be mixed with Bead Maker, similar to how Dream Maker is mixed with it?
Yeah, well, so I'm not big on advising people to mix products together. So, is there I'm just trying to think of when that would work or why that. I mean, you may destroy. You may destroy either product.
Yeah, and I've seen people try that, and it doesn't sound like it works out as well as the Dream Maker Bead Maker combo. Yeah. So I think that I definitely have heard that it hasn't been that great. And I believe I probably tried it myself years ago, but I just prefer to do Bead Maker. And then if I have to send the car right away, I do Paint Gloss right over it. I mean, it takes, a few seconds. So it's just better to not mix them for sure.
Yeah, the chemistry of Dream Maker and the chemistry of Paint Gloss are not very similar. Yeah. And why they work and how they get put together. It's a pretty drastic difference.
Yeah. Yep.
We have a big name in the industry all the way back in the 80s and 90s. Remind us as detailers that we're not mixologists, that we're not chemical engineers. And sometimes our good intent works, but a lot of times our good intent turns out bad. So you got to be careful when you're mixing stuff. And being around Dave as much as we have, you get that feeling because he starts talking about, in a whole different language that I necessarily don't even pretend to understand. At his level, you got to be really careful. And a lot of times the expectation you're having and the idea is good, but the outcome maybe not so good.
Yeah, we certainly try to make sure that within our chemical line, there's nothing you can mix together that would be considered extremely dangerous. Right. But that's kind of level of where we stop. We don't want it to be dangerous, but we're going to say, well, it's not going to work together. It may completely neutralize the other one. You may come up with something that you're not expecting because, to a large extent, this is just liquid in a bottle. You have no idea what's in the bottle.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So down one last guest here to take and ask questions, and we'll open it up and see if anybody else has any in-house, or if Sydney, if you want to go on to some online also.
Sure.
Okay. So my question is, what is the difference between wide open and pearl?
Wide open and say that?
And pearl shampoo.
So between wide open and pearl.
Oh.
Quite a bit.
Yeah. Again, it's kind of the same answer as before. Pearl, I don't know, foaming. easy to dilute, easy to rinse, wide open. The idea is to get, more dirt cleaning, get dirt, because we're going to deal, hopefully we're seeing it on vehicles that have got a lot of mud and aggressive soil particles on there. So, we're going to want to lift those off, provide a lot of lubricity with pearl, not really the same soil found on the cars, maybe more of a kind of a urban sort of soil, a little bit more oily, a little bit more sooty. And so we're trying to get, a different type of soil off the car in either case.
Okay. In saying that, is wide open then stronger than pearl as a chemist?
Yeah, it's meant for dirtier vehicles for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So, instance, for when we wash, our daily drivers, pearl's great. When we go off, we've got both a Jeep and an overland rig, and the difference in washing those when they're really clogged up with mud and heavy soils, it's night and day. It's night and day. Pearl does a great job with it, but as Dave and Sydney both pointed out, it's just a little different beast, So
yeah, a lot of things when you're putting a cleaner together is, well, you need to look at two or three things, and it's one is what's the surface you're cleaning, and then the other side is what's the soil you're trying to remove. And so you tailor those, ingredients so that they're going to work the best with that soil and that surface.
Right on.
All right.
You guys have questions, think about it, and come on, let us know.
Yeah, let's get to a couple of these questions online, and then we'll take some more. So, Frank, any tips for using Defender? Sometimes I get streaking when using it. So here's my number one tip, and then we'll see what Dave has to say. I say use the FTW towel. That always solves all of my streaking. So because Defender is so, it's very, what would you say, like a light-bodied, it's not real heavy like Bead Maker. And so you want to make sure that you have something that is getting absorbed back off the surface. So it does what it needs to on the paint. You need to get it all back off. So I find that like a twist loop towel basically makes it near impossible to get a streak in all of my use of that.
And maybe that's just because I seem to use those towels all the time.
Right, because I don't ever get any streaking.
And usually, over the years, we've run into, different car paints and different colors and different makes and models and all that sort of stuff where, you have a product that just refuses to work well on that car. And we have some around the parking lot that I can kind of come back and check against, and I do, and I make sure the lighting's right and the weather's right and the whole ball of wax to kind of be the worst case scenario for those. And I have to say, my experience with Defender is it's one of the least streaking products I think we've ever come up with. It actually does a lot. Right now, it's really easy to make a not streaking product that doesn't do anything. And we've certainly, I've run into those materials in the past, or those products in the past, and you go, well, no wonder it does. Liquid waxes was a big thing way back when. And you'd put on a liquid wax on the car and they go, well, yeah, but it doesn't streak. And I go, yeah, but when I look at the side that's waxed and the side that isn't, they don't look any different. So no wonder it didn't streak, right? So when you get a product that's really doing something to the surface, that becomes harder to get rid of those or keep that streaking from happening. But I have to say, my experience with Defender is that it's low on that scale.
Yeah.
We had a recent vehicle in the training, and it was a few years old. And what had happened was the clear coat was down into the spongy part. It had been treated pretty poorly, and a lot of times what we're seeing is when a car is either mistreated or the clear coat's been minimalized, and you get into the softer, spongy part of that clear coat, is a lot of products are going to be really tough to get onto that surface evenly. FTW is all the way.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so let's answer this question real quick. Super Auto, where is 5 Marg Mazel, the Gazelle? He is at home, probably working in his shop. Since we had Mr. Keith here with us today, we figured we'd make him the producer and not get Tony away from his probably very hard work and his brand new puppy. So Tony is at home, but he will be joining us at SEMA on Wednesday morning. Yes, the ever mystical crystal wash. The video's coming.
This is this is getting fun. This
Yeah.
one, when I was a kid, well, not that much of a kid, old enough to drink. I was just saying, Coors was the big thing because you couldn't get it on the East Coast.
Mhm.
And you go like, is that? And we're going like, no, Coors isn't that special.
Crystal wash.
Crystal wash is that special.
It is that special. It is. All right. Briley says, if Iron Buster has surfactants, does it have enough lubrication to use with a clay towel? This is also a very popular question lately.
Yeah. So I think you're probably more qualified to answer.
So yes, you can use it with a clay towel, but I highly suggest doing it separately. Iron Buster, it really needs to be able to do its job, but also if you use it with your clay towel is forever going to smell like Iron Buster. So if you love the smell of Iron Buster and you don't mind your clay towel smelling like that, go for it. But really, in my opinion, it needs to be two separate, processes, because otherwise you've got all that, the iron particles now are removed from the surface. And so now you're picking them all up in that, all of them in that synthetic clay. I think you should, cleanse the surface with Iron Buster first, then go back in clay, because now you've got all of that material removed from the surface and your clay is going to be more efficient. So it's not going to hurt the clay towel, but I just think they should probably remain separate.
The other thing I would say is that, when you're using Iron Buster, it's a much higher level of concentration of materials in that are much higher than is typically used with a clay towel. Mm-hmm. Most of the lubricants that are used on clay towels have pretty low solids in them, and that's just a lot of soap to be using, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're using like a diluted car wash soap down, a diluted down car wash soap, I mean, you're getting a really, really thin lubricity out of that.
Yeah. So I think you're just probably not getting all of the, benefits of clay when there's so much other stuff going on the surface. I think that, once you get to the clay portion, you kind of want the surface pretty well, everything that can be removed so that it's that much more efficient. So I would do it separately. All right. Jamie says, I used Iron Buster yesterday with my reset towel and I still have soap on the and he still had soap on the vehicle as well. Yeah. Yep. First from Puerto Rico, like in the pharmaceutical or any chemical industry, batches are to be checked for problems and act on them. That's exactly what they're for. Yep. Mike's Auto Detailing. If you use P&S code Jamie10, you can save yourself some change. Absolutely. That's on the P&S website, by the way. Yes, Jamie, Mike with the real tips and tricks. All right, let's get to, how about Renee? Do you have any more questions up there?
Questions? Anybody? No, they're all quiet. They're all cold.
Cold?
Yeah, it's cold over there.
Yeah, we have a heater in here.
In the winter, this room is sometimes called the warming hut.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keith, or actually, no, I want you to answer this one too. This one's actually very important. From Jamie, can crystal wash be used in a foam cannon? It seems like a much faster way to apply it.
I don't think you're going to get any foam.
Well, you're not going to get any foam. And also I think because it is still, even though it's a mild acid, I just don't think that you're going to want to really atomize that much. You could try using it in an IK multi because it just kind of lays down more on the surface, but I wouldn't use it in a foamer because a foamer really does atomize it more in the air. And, we really shouldn't be heavily breathing that I think you're just dispersing too much in the air trying to use a foam cannon. But, and then you also wouldn't want to dilute crystal wash with water. It needs to be used full strength. So you could try using a multi, but even that, you're still maybe putting some in the air. If you're wearing a mask, you're maybe a little safer, but
I think in general, at some you need to remember we're doing industrial chemicals.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because it is an acid.
We're doing even, in every case, you should, think twice when you're using these products because there can be the ability to cause some, cause damage. Really. I mean, they need to be taken seriously sometimes.
Yep. Hey, Keith, we probably only have a couple more minutes here, and Dave would like to answer Gabriel's question of the why not possible to put every product have an anti-static. Do we have that one that we could pull up?
Just we can just
or we
say
can just,
it.
yeah.
Just go ahead. You asked it. So
I'll just
all
read
right.
it. I'll just read it. So Gabriel asks, Dave, why is it not possible to give every product the anti-static characteristics?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because why you get static buildup in various cases varies greatly between how the surface has been treated over time. So when you look at the list of anti-static products, for when I first started looking at anti-static products, you thought, oh, well, they're going to be cationic. It's going to be very simple. They're just going to be positive charge, and that's going to eliminate the negative charge on the surface, and boom, and then you're going to neutralize everything, and now you're not going to have a static situation. However, when you start looking at the list of anti-stats, they cover just about every chemical you can think when you look at the categories. So some of them are anionic, some of them are cationic, some of them are neutral. To put, an anti-static in every case is just too broad of an application. It's going to work sometimes, it's going to not work other times. And so that's why you have a specific application. Say, okay, here, this is a static issue. I have this situation. I can define what's going on, how we got to that point, and here's what I can use to maybe neutralize that. So to just go, hey, just anti-stat all over the place, unfortunately, just doesn't work.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Anyone else in the audience out there, Rennie? Any other questions? You guys still get to see Dave in a few minutes, so you're good if you don't think about it right now. We still have him for the rest of the day. But what do you think, Keith? We wrap this up. And I do see that there's still a couple of questions out there, and you guys, we will come in and answer those in the comments. Keith, there's any that you want us to answer real quick before we sign off for today?
Well, I think that, is there any merit to the idea of moisturizing or hydrating paint with regard to a wash? My experience, and Dave, yours is probably the same. I just think with a wash product, you don't get enough of the right kind of contact or product materials, typically some sort of a solvent or hydrating material in a soap that's going to help you hydrate a paint. So you need to do that as an after step. Would you kind of agree with that idea, Dave?
So unfortunately, it sounds like this might have been some sort of terminology that has been being built up a little bit on the social media. And I don't think I really know what they mean by moisturizing or rehydrating the paint. Because what happens is people talk about these things over and over and over, and then they define a term and they know what that means. And I don't think I can answer it correctly.
So I'm gonna guess on this because what I think, because I've heard a little bit of this marketing, that the soap rehydrates the paint. I'm gonna compare this to body wash. Because there's body washes that are just body wash, and then there's body wash with, like Nivea lotion in it, right? And it says like ultra hydrating body wash, right? So the question is has anybody ever bought if your skin is really dry and you buy this hydrating body wash, does that mean you get to skip lotion after your shower? Never. We've never gotten to that point where you just don't, you know what I'm saying? Like if your skin is actually dry. So if we're talking about a car's paint, if the car's paint is actually dry, are you going to get a noticeable amount of rehydration from what other wax or carnauba that might be included in a, car soap enough to hydrate it where you notice a noticeable change in the hydration of the paint? My guess is going to be no.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Sounds like
I would think you have to, swell the cellulose or any of the product in the paint. You'd have to put a product on there that's specifically designed for that, which would be totally counterintuitive to what's in a wash soap.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is, kind of the realm more of a cosmetic application.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
Well, we have a couple minor questions in the contact stuff there. So let's hit the booth info. So SEMA starts Tuesday morning at 9:00 on the show floor, 9 to 5, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 9 to 4 on Friday. We are all there. Check Rennie's schedule for booth times. He's posted that. We will all be there. Dave gets in Tuesday. Tony gets in Wednesday. We are booth 51147 in the West.
Let's call.
So you can find us there. The IDA booth obviously is over in the North Hall. We'd love to see those guys. I want to say shout out to our Caribbean chapter president who is with us today, Catherine Mayo. So you will see her there. You will see pretty much everybody that was on our guest list at SEMA as well. So come see us. Come hang out in the booth. We want to see you. We want to visit with you. Thank you for being on this special edition show. Sid, I'll let you close us up.
Yeah, just special shout out to all of our distributors that are here and have made this trip. It's a big investment on their part, and we've had a great time. We love having people in the building, and it's been a great couple days, and we still have a half a day worth of stuff to get to that we're super excited about. So thank you everybody for joining us, and we will see you, in a couple days. SEMA is going to be crazy. So we're excited to see everybody, and we'll come live from SEMA several times so that you guys, those of us that are not joining us in Vegas, will be able to kind of see what's going on, and it'll be fun. So thank you, everyone. Have an awesome day.
Thank you.
See you soon.
See ya.